One of the things that have been hearing about is supply chain issues and potential shortages this year for things like glyphosate and glufosinate. So what that's going to do is probably alter some people's weed management plans. So today I'm just going to really talk about what are some of the things that we can do to come up with a good strategy and thinking about a plan A, a plan B, and potentially a plan C depending on what products you're able to get a hold of. So we're looking at a lot of potential alternative plans if you don't have glyphosate or if you don't have glufosinate, and we'll talk about some of the different soybean traits and what might be some of the things to consider. I think one of the things that we're really stressing, and we've been stressing it a lot the last few years, particularly when we started looking at some of the herbicide-resistant weeds that we have, like water hemp that's popping up everywhere with the glyphosate resistance, and then mare's tail, is really thinking that we need to think of an overall plan that has a soil-applied or pre-emergence residual herbicide. And what that does is really helps get rid of a lot of the weeds that we're dealing with, so we're not putting so much selection pressure on those post applications. And then really looking at what are some of the alternatives if you aren't able to get your glyphosate, or if you are able to get glyphosate, are there things that you might want to mix with it to make sure that we're getting good control of all the weeds, whether it's lamb's quarters or velvet leaf, some of our typical weeds. I think one of the things is talk to your local suppliers, your dealers, figure out what you might be able to have, and then a lot of them don't know right now because things are just really backed up, but think about what are some of the alternative plans. And one of the things that we're really saying is, hey, we have the MSU Weed Control Guide, and with that, it gives you all the different options, and you can compare and contrast different herbicides, and it kind of gives you some lookouts for different things. So really this year, this is a great resource to have, and we've got some very specific recommendations for some of the more challenging weeds like mare's tail or water hemp. And we have a website, msuweeds.com, and the weed guides posted at that, or if people want the hard copy, they can get it from the MSU Weeds bookstore. I think one of the things this year that's going to be very important is just really be in contact now with your suppliers so you know what might be some of the potential things that you're not going to be able to get access to, or if you are able to get access to, is there things that you might want to mix with it. And I think that's one of the things that's going to come out with some of the other talks is like communication, just making sure that you're talking now. A lot of people have their product potentially bought right now, but if you don't, it's really important to know where you're at and what you can actually be doing. This whole thing about chemical shortage has been out there for a while, so hopefully people are being proactive about it, but I really do think it's important to, if you haven't talked to your supplier, make sure you do that now. I think right now, probably there's not a lot of people that are overbuying. There might have been some people that were proactive this last summer and may have gotten some stuff for this next year. So I think we're kind of all over the board where people have product, people are waiting on product, and people aren't even sure if they're going to get product. I think this year, just make sure, one of the things that I think is going to be really important, think about what weeds are in your field so you do have that plan in place to cover all those weeds. And then I think this year scouting is going to be particularly important if you're going to be low on certain herbicides and looking for some of those alternatives, because some of those alternatives may be not as broad spectrum as things like glyphosate and glufosinate. So you're going to want to make sure that you have an idea of what weeds are out there. So scouting is going to be extremely important.